All right, we ready?
Recording in progress.
Got it. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, and welcome to the Blurring the Lines podcast, episode 154. I am your host, Peter Nikolaidis, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Adam Bell.
Adam Bell joining you here. Good to see you, Peter.
To see you too. Wait, how's the buddy Christ go? It's like, is it point one's the thumbs up and the other's the point, but I don't remember which is which. So, oh boy.
So that, I referred to myself in the third person there. I don't do that, but I have a client that
Adam doesn't do that.
Adam doesn't do that. That when he sends in a ticket, he refers to himself in the third person. The thing is, there's another person in his office who has the same first name as him. And so you're like, is he talking about himself or is he talking about the other one? And then you have to ask him, which person are you talking about, yourself or the other one? Myself.
Dude,
use I.
Read the room. Some people, this is what we call a personality quirk.
Yeah. Yes.
Brother. So we got some catching up to do, and we've got a few little topics, a little bit of a catch-up episode. So we started off and Adam was all like, I don't have a topic for today. And I'm like, well, I have topics today. So, and I'm going to drag you into one. But first, catching up on what's stuff outside of business, what's going on. I completed my bachelor's degree officially and received the certificate.
All right.
So I are now a college graduate.
Did you see the meme that I put on the podcast posting for that?
I don't think I did. What did I miss?
It says it's got that, the guy who's pointing at his head, he's a meme all the time for dumb things. He says, you can't graduate can't graduate late if you never graduate. And he's got like, he's the smart guy.
Yeah. There you go. So I graduated late. So there you go.
Better late than never.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was kind of funny because I saw somebody posted, I think this is on either Twitter or LinkedIn, someone shared another person's, inspirational tweet. And this guy was all like, I ran my first marathon when I was 50 and I did this when I was this and, blah, blah, blah. Just all these achievements relatively late in life that this guy's doing in his 60s now.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, all right, I graduated before I'm 50. Hey. And on that note, I will be running my first marathon before I'm 50 as well. So
awesome. I'm glad we peer pressured you into it. I mean, you were already
yes.
doing it. It won't be a problem for you. It's not like you're going to have to go do more training. You're already doing the training.
I'm already doing the training. Yeah. Yeah. So thanks to people like you who have peer pressured me into it. Exactly it. I am now signed up for the Bay State Marathon. No, this is not the Boston Marathon. No, it's not the same. Although I believe the Bay State is one of the qualifiers. So if you do, perform within a certain time frame, that will qualify you to run in the Boston. That is not on my list. So, but yeah, no, I read a really good book called Born to Run last week. My boss from the hospital bought it for me because his kid, I don't know, he got 3 kids and one of them's a triathlete. So when I mentioned to him that I was, I said my availability is going to be tapering back just a little bit for for the hospital engagement, like you'll still get your time from me, but I might be working a little bit odd hours because I've got to fit in more runs now, and sometimes they've got to be kind of long ones. And his response was he sent me 2 books on Amazon in Kindle format. One's Born to Run, and it's all just about like a deep dive analysis into ultra marathoners.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one is called Natural Born Heroes, which is by the same author. And he analyzes, people who like with no previous experience or history rise to the occasion in really oppressive situations.
Mm-hmm.
Like a school teacher, when this guy like walked into the school with a machete and started cutting down people, this woman like warded him off just with like natural instincts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And but he focuses a lot on the island of Crete,
Mm-hmm.
where most of the Greek myths come from, and where some really amazing World War II heroes came out of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, really interesting stuff. So a couple of good books, even if you're not into like ultra marathoning or running. The first book, Born to Run, is really entertaining. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you insight into all kinds of like just like some things that they do and say in that community. It's like, oh, and then there was this guy who had all of his toenails surgically removed,
Yeah.
and the guy's comment was, they kept falling off anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm not there yet.
Yeah. I worked with a guy who was a marathoner, like a lifelong marathoner. And he got through running a marathon, and he was talking about it. He said, yeah, the only bummer is my big toenail fell off. And I was, wait, what do you mean your toenail fell off? I mean, why? So, well, I mean, just the repetitive motion of that, the foot going back and forth and back and forth, it breaks the nail, and it just breaks off. I'm like, wait a minute. So does it like fall off when you're running, or, what's the, tell me.
I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
But I could see that. I mean, if you were a lifelong runner, I mean, just having an ingrown toenail is an inconvenience. I mean, and it's a hassle of getting it. So if that were happening to you all the time, and you were I would have the toenails removed if it was gonna be a constant problem like that.
Yep. Yeah, no, I can see that. I don't see that happening to me anytime soon, but I can see that.
Yeah.
So.
You like running, but you don't know that you're in love with it yet.
No, I'm in love with running. I'm also kind of partial to my toenails, I guess. So, I mean, that said, if I had to give it a choice, like right now, your toenails are running, I don't use the toenails for much.
Yeah.
They really are just a hassle. I don't honestly, I don't remember the last time I killed my evening meal with my toenails. It's just, I think it's been a couple million years since I got around to doing that. So I'm really not using them. Minimalist.
We'll just call you Gollum Toe after that.
So anyway, yeah. So marathon, that's next month. Bachelor's degree, that's last month. And a quick little update. I mentioned the Comply foam tips for the Jabra Elite 65 tees last episode. We're doing this a little bit out of order, but I don't care. I'm pressed for time. I have to go train for a marathon. Yeah. Don't like them. Don't like them. I like the ones that I bought for the AirPods Pro. Those stick in my ear better and they feel better. The ones for the Jabra, they don't feel as snug and more noise. They're better in one sense, that more noise passes through, so I can hear the surroundings better. But the Jabra has the setting to act sort of like hearing aids, where they'll take audio that they hear from the mic, from the microphone, and pipe it into the speakers. So I already have that. So when I want to minimize the ambient noise, they don't do that as well. But what the deal breaker was, 2 days ago, I went for a run in torrential rain, and I came back, everything was soaked, including my foamy earbuds. And when I went to just pull one of them off of the earbud itself, it just ripped. It just tore like a wet sponge.
Mhm.
And, it's just like, that's kind of disappointing. They don't really seem, and it's, it's got to be something with my ear and the form factor of these earpieces, but they don't stay in as well as just the plain old silicone ones that I
Yeah.
have. So whatever. Silicone, sorry, not con. Con is in
Silicon.
chips, cone is the plastic. So yeah, it wasn't so great.
Mhm.
So speaking of other garbage
Uh-huh.
in technology, I wouldn't say these are exactly garbage, but I have a few off-brand IoT things, including these little smart plugs.
Yeah.
This is the 1010 brand, and I
1010.
think I don't remember which app or software uses. It might be Smart Life. I think it's Smart Life as opposed to Smart Things.
I have a block of TP links.
Block of links, right? So TP Link I hear is better. But I have three of these 1010s in the house. Two of them just stopped working some time ago.
Mhm.
And at the simultaneously, I have some non-Philips Hue light bulbs, smart bulbs. I have a lot of Philips Hue bulbs because when they were like I don't know if they were first to market, but they were first that I saw to market, and I invested heavily in those. But then I went and I found some cheaper ones and I started buying those. And they regularly will just lose their connection to Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
And sometimes just power cycling them brings them back. Sometimes it doesn't. But what really ticked me off is I would find out that because there would be this like light. So when I go to sleep, I like it completely dark.
Yeah.
And as I live alone, I generally leave the doors open within the house, right, including my bedroom door.
Mhm.
And there's this light coming through the hallway. I'm like, what is going on? And I would tell A Word and Google to turn off the lights, and they're like, oh, sorry, 3 lights aren't responding. And sure enough, the 3rd floor lights would not turn off. So what I did is I swapped it. I went through this dance to take 3 Hue bulbs from my living room and move them upstairs. And then I moved these other ones down into my living room where I figured I'd have more ready access to them. Or if for whatever reason they stayed on at night, I wouldn't see the glow.
Mhm.
And last night they just stopped responding for whatever reason. So for a couple of reasons, I'm paring back on these, this proliferation, this spread of different brands of IoT stuff
Mhm.
in the house. For better or worse, I'm standardizing on Philips Hue bulbs just because they're the majority that I already have.
Mhm.
And I'm looking to replace these smart plugs with something else because I wouldn't say struggling, but like trying again and again for, close to an hour just to get these stupid things to reset. And they do this thing where you do this little dance where then it starts setting up its own little Wi-Fi network. So you have to join that and then run the app. By the time I got the Wi-Fi network to actually show up, I joined it, come back into the app, it had lost the connection. So I'm not connected to it anymore. And it's got really helpful instructions like move your router closer to the device.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks.
So not really enamored with these things. So that's one reason. But the other reason is it seems like when you buy stuff that works with HomeKit, the Apple automation stuff, not just
Mhm.
A Word, not just Google, they're more expensive. And it seems like there's more of a vetting process from the security side of things.
Mhm.
So you get what you pay for. There's a reason that these little plugs were like $10 a piece.
Yeah.
And the HomeKit ones are more like 20.
Mhm.
I was allured to I was drawn to the cheap. And I think I addressed most of the security concerns by having them out on the guest wireless network. So, they're not talking to anything in my house anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how much security I'll gain by doing this, but really what I want is reliability. I just want the stupid things to work.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I mean, so these TP links, they are, I mean, I bought them because they would work with my smart or with the home link, like you said.
Yep.
And I've had zero problems out of them. I can't even remember. I can't even remember programming them. So
Yeah.
it was so easy, I didn't even have to think about it.
Yep.
And I primarily use them, and I guess this will be the third year that I've had them. Or I bought them for my Christmas lights and things like that.
Yep.
So that I could, you know, for my Christmas tree forever, we had the crank mechanical, and you know, those have never been great. They creep on the time. You know, it's like, I want it to go off at 11. Then it's 11:30, midnight. Why is the tree still on?
I bought one of those for my father because I got tired of telling him, it's like every other day he would call me, "Hey, the computer's not working." And I was like, "Did you reset the router? What's that?" And I'd have to tell him every time. So I bought a timer and I put it on there, and it's just like, so every day at 2 a.m. it would just reboot his router for him. Problem was solved until, of course, they live in rural Vermont. They ran out of power for hours at a time, a few times. And the next thing is like, every morning around, I don't know, like the computer, the internet just stops working. Well, what happened was, everything stopped and the timer got set to start turning off at around 11 a.m., 11:30. So middle of the morning, he's on the internet and boom, everything's not working. I was like, all right, fine.
Eventually it'll get back around there.
Yeah, exactly. Just wait for it. It's routine. That's the maintenance window, Dad. That's the maintenance window. So I hear you're playing World of Warcraft again.
I am.
What prompted that time suck?
Well, you want to know what it was? It was actually that book that I sent you. He Who Fights Monsters. It is a person gets sucked into an alternate dimension of our world, but he's in an RPG. He's he's fighting monsters, and he's got a dashboard that nobody can see. He's got a GUI interface, he's got bags and everything. And so it was a fun read, and I was like, yeah, I really want to play I want to play a role-playing game now. So I pulled out the World of Warcraft. And of course, good thing about World of Warcraft, and it's funny, I was like, I'm gonna do a search and see if there's anything bigger or better than World of Warcraft, because I've been out of it for 3 years, 4 years, maybe longer. And
it's been 8 for me.
World of Warcraft
13 for me.
World of Warcraft is still the biggest, just in number of subscribers, because that's what I want. I want to be where the most people are. It doesn't have the best graphics. I mean, it doesn't have, it's cartoonish, CG-ish. I mean, it's the same graphics we had in the 90s as far as some of the, just the 3D stuff. But that's not it. It's the gameplay is still works really well. It's fast. You've got, millions of users on there at the same time, spread across servers and everything.
Lots of servers. Yeah.
Lots of servers. And, but so I got back in there. The only bummer was, well, and of course, they know their audience. I mean, Blizzard knows who's playing our game. They know that our generation is also playing their game. And, we were when it came out, we were the ones playing their game. And they know that if they want to get us to come back and play, they can't make us start over at level 1. So
they did. What I remember was when they rapidly advanced your leveling, like when I first started playing, I think level 60 was the cap. And then they upped it to 70, and then this expansion came out, and then they made it like, well, you could get from like levels 1 to 10 in like an hour. And then you could get mounts earlier on, so you could move more easily and stuff. So they're always nerfing things to make it
Mhm.
easier. So what's changed now? How do they let you rapidly
So they've
ramp
got,
up?
well, so a couple episodes ago, I think it was the Lich King. Whenever we got the Demon Hunter, um, they allowed you, or no, the Shadow Knight. You could create a character starting at the Shadow Knight. I mean, so
Mhm.
you could, which was awesome, because if you were a veteran of the game, you knew you didn't want to spend all the time to build somebody up to level 50 who's a character really that's in mid game. You know, they're coming in a mid game character, so it doesn't make sense to make them go through all the noob zones. And so you could create one, you could
Mhm.
create one Shadow Knight and you are fully ready to go. You're not fully at the top of the levels, but you're in the beginning level at level 50. So that was slick. Right now, what they've got is you can select one of your characters and bump them automatically to level 48. So I didn't do that. So they nerfed me from, I was in the 80s. I didn't go all the way to 110, but my character was in the 80s, and they nerfed me down to level 27. And I
Mhm.
figured, it's been so long, I really need to remember how to play.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna do that in my 20s. And so I'm playing with a hunter right now with pets. And I had this and I forgot some of the things, and I switched my character yesterday from damage to beast, and that was where you have more than one pet fighting at once, which is
Yep.
pretty slick. Except now my damage input is way down, and all the damage comes from the pets. I'm like,
Well, that's why you have your pets.
yeah,
You know.
but it slows it down.
Mhm.
It's all, I mean, anytime the NPC is fighting for you,
Yeah.
it's not as efficient. It doesn't do all the things that you can do.
If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
Got to do it yourself. Can't let the computer do it.
Well, I had lunch with my main web designer and friend from back to elementary school a couple weeks ago, and we used to play games together. It's like he would come over to the office, we would sit down, work for like an hour, game for 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it started off, I don't remember what we played together first. It might have been Diablo,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I've played with another mutual friend. But then we played. I never actually had Warcraft, the original Warcraft,
Okay.
not World of Warcraft, but the original
Mm-hmm.
strategy game. I think I played Warcraft 2. Definitely played a lot of StarCraft.
Mm-hmm.
But then we switched over to Age of Empires, and that was fun. We played Age of Empires, AoE 2, Rise of Nations briefly, and then Empire Earth from
Yeah.
Sierra. And Empire Earth, I liked just because you could go all the way from prehistoric caveman, where like one of
Mm-hmm.
your classes was clubman and another was rock thrower,
Yeah.
all the way up to hovercrafts and cybernetics, aircraft carriers.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that was fun. I liked the advancing up and, like, the feeling when you're like, all right, you start sending the cavalry over and you get met by tanks. You're like, oh
Yeah.
son of a, let's go back. we gotta build up a little bit here. We're not
Yeah.
quite ready for this.
Yeah. That's
So
funny. I played every one of those games too.
yep. So I've been wanting to play one of those again. But what I really liked would be like when he and I would team up against the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is invariably, the games would either be the AI would be just brain dead. So
Yeah.
it's just doing completely stupid and you just walk right over them,
Mm-hmm.
or it's just like impossible.
Yeah.
And I would watch them sometime. We would just start building and I would pan over, like reveal the entire map so I can look at what they're doing. And the things were building like 5 times faster than we could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I would take like, like, okay, your population cap is 5 over there and I have a pop cap of 50, and I
Uh-huh.
would take all 50 of my villagers and start building up something. He's got like 14 buildings built up in 10 minutes where I'm still working on the third one. And I'm like, how is this is
Yeah.
not fair,
Mm-hmm.
So what I really would like to play is, something like those games. and that it has to be multiplayer because I want to play with my buddy over the internet, either through a networking, like a BattleNet type thing, or just we can set up a VPN, or something like that. But I'm looking for something like that. And I got a couple of suggestions from a colleague at work also. But I'd like to play something like that. Just they're kind of fun. So
you probably haven't checked Steam yet. So Steam has
I've
purchased a lot of those old games and made them available. So like I recently played Master of Orion. Do you remember that one? It was a turn-based.
Never played that.
It was a turn-based exploration and then take over the other aliens. And but they had Master of Orion 1, 2, and 3. 1 was okay. 2 grew it a little bit better and I think was the best version. And 3 became so complex to play. It's like, I don't enjoy this at all. I can't figure out all these texts that I can do. It's like you gotta find it the right medium. Too many options.
Rise of Nations I found too complicated. I never got into Rise of Nations because I thought it was just too hard to figure out. Whereas Empire Earth was really easy. And I want to build, select, formation, attack. And I really like a game that will one of the things I like about Empire Earth is you could designate the behaviors, like you just patrol this area, and then you could say okay, if you spot the enemy, go hostile, go all in, just go get them. Whereas if you guys spot the enemy, follow it for a little while, but just enough to drive it off, but then come back to your post. So those kind of commands I really liked, where you could make them have just a little bit of intelligence. But one of the things that's, annoying to no end is when you find a valuable, a howitzer decides to go solo wandering off into enemy territory. And he gets killed by a rifleman. It's just I spent all the gold and steel to build this thing up, and he just goes up, no, I got it, I got this. So those are annoying.
Well, and I liked it. Kind of became like chess, because in a chess game I have the exact same powers that you do. I mean, so it's really us playing the game better.
Strategy.
The winner is the strategy. That's so Warcraft 1 and 2, kind of the same thing. 1 was pretty good. 2 was the better, fixed all the new things. And then Warcraft 3 added these heroes, and the heroes had all these special abilities, and you had to take time to learn all these special abilities. And it's like, well, I just don't enjoy this as much, especially if you played with anybody. And at that time, I wasn't wasting all my time playing games. I mean, and if you played with anybody who had worked with the heroes, I mean, they're going to annihilate you.
And Empire Earth did that too. I don't remember. I think they had them in the base game. Maybe it was an expansion, but they did, things like General Patton or Napoleon, and they had war type heroes and strategy type heroes, or combat and strategy. And I thought that was those were hard to use. And so I hardly ever used those in my games. I just didn't like them. So I got the idea though, heroes, and I think that sort of came out of the idea of when you're playing World of Warcraft or Diablo, you've got here's your hero and you've got all this invested time. Well, now here's sort of a lightweight version of that for your strategy game. But I've got a freaking war I'm trying to command here. I don't have time to specify, spend all this time on one person.
I was playing Diablo with an acquaintance at the time, and once you got all the way through it to a certain level, it changed you to Sir. You remember that? It changed your title to Sir. And then you started the whole thing over in a harder mode. And what was funny was the guy that I was, we were also playing, and he says, well, I finished it. You can call me sir now. And I said, I mean, I didn't say it in my head. I'm like, I'm not calling you sir. And then when I finally crossed over level, the end, I was like, oh, now I get it.
You could call me sir now too.
Call me sir too.
Yes. The thing I remember about Diablo 2 was the barbarian, and he had the ability to leap, you know, and in the jungle campaigns, if there was a bug where if you got onto like one of the pyramids, you could leap screens and screens and screens away.
Oh, wow.
So I would do that. Like that was my escape tactic. If I was getting swarmed and all the monsters were, I would get them to lead me up to the pyramid, and then I would just leap like a football field away and then get away. So that was the one. That was a fun bug. It's like, oh, you didn't know barbarians could fly in this game?
Yeah.
Again,
yeah. I always played a necromancer, so I always had a slew of skeletons running around with me.
Reed, the guy I want to play these RTS games again with, he was playing with generally a necromancer, so he had his posse with him, and yeah, it's like, where are my dudes? Oh, dudes.
Yeah.
And this little swarm comes around him. I was like, that is kind of cool. So,
yeah. So well, cool.
Yeah. All right, so beers. I still have a refrigerator half full of summer beers, and summer is, boy, I don't know. Right now it's chilly outside.
Oh, really?
We're in prime running season right now. So yeah, so beers are it's like Oktoberfest season, and I've still got cases of summer beers because for the other podcast that I'm semi-regularly releasing with Scott Wilsey, friendswithbeer.com, I decided I should get a new beer every episode. So I went and I built my own 6-pack of a bunch of these, but I also bought a couple of cases of these other ones that I really like. And so I'm like, yeah, this is great. Boy, I could really go for more like a stout today. It's kind of chilly. But yeah, September means Oktoberfest. Yes. So I have to start stocking up on those. But of course, coincidentally to those, I'm cutting down on my alcohol intake as I prepare for the marathon.
Yeah. So these are going to be spring beers.
Spring Oktoberfests. Yes. April fests. So, oh, brother. So what's lavender?
Lavender.
Oh, lavender.
Yeah, like lavender.
Yeah. I thought, like lavender.com. What's lavender?
No, so the we've got our lavender farm, and we planted 100 plants in the spring, and I think we're at 96 plants have survived. A couple died right away.
Wait, 96 out of 100? 103?
No, 96 survived, 4 died.
Out of 100.
Out of 100.
Got that's what I thought. Yep.
So that's good. I mean, what I wanted to do is I wanted to do the proof of concept. One that I could plant a number of these plants. 2, I had them in the right environment and soil, and I didn't want to plant 1,000 of them and they all die because I don't know what I'm doing. Even though I've done the research, but you can do all kinds of research, but until you actually do something, it doesn't go. So we've got like 96 plants, and we've got another 144 coming to plant in the fall. So that's what's happening first weekend in October.
So you'll have 144 total. So it'll be like
more.
Wait, what's 144? 12 gross? A gross?
Dozens, yeah.
Score is 20. What's a dozen?
A dozen, that's 144.
Right, but there's a word for that, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Is that a gross?
A brick. In fireworks, it's a brick.
If it was pugs, it would be a grumble. That much I know.
Yeah, so we'll be, we're quickly approaching, being real lavender farmers.
Rock on. Rock on. Cool. So main topic? Ancillary topic? Shared responsibility.
Oh, shared responsibility.
Shared
Oh, that was
responsibility.
your responsibility to remember that, right?
Well, I
Or
was
was that
sharing it with
mine?
you though. Well, that's a good question. So here comes up. Um, so as you know, I'm doing more consulting these days rather than managed services, right?
Mhm.
So, and listeners, we're assuming you know the difference between those right now. I'm not going to get into that today, but I still have a few MSP clients, and one of them is a place where they had, a computer guy,
Mhm.
and he was like really old school computer guy, learned his things in the 90s and never advanced,
Yeah.
right? Didn't no automation, no centralized management, ran around with literally a fistful of dongles with his utilities and his passwords on a keychain, did everything by hand. Anything he did, he had to walk over and physically touch the computers, right?
Just like we used to do it.
So for this, we manage their Active Directory, we manage their servers, and we manage their firewalls and their content filters and their antivirus, and we do patch management. This guy was very quirky. He never wanted to, like manage half the systems at all. Like, he would do all of those. Like, okay, we'll let Paradigm have their agent on these handful of machines, but I'm going to take care of all of these because it's cheaper. And
Mhm.
year after year, I would explain to them, this is why this is a bad idea. Just you're accepting the risk. That's fine. But, I've made it clear, blah, blah, blah. Well, he was replaced earlier this year. And the new guy, definitely a little sharper, right?
Mhm.
He's a little more, but he's not super seasoned. Like he didn't know, for instance, that you don't need to actually remote desktop or hands-on keyboard to a domain controller to use Active Directory management tools.
Right.
Right. And today I told him, like, he said, well, you can get the list of users and stuff, because he wanted to find accounts that haven't been used for a long time and maybe should be disabled. So
Mhm.
yeah, you just do that with PowerShell. But yeah, well, how do I do that without logging onto the server? It's like, you don't need to log on to the server, dude. Just as long as you've got the PowerShell and the remote server admin tools installed on your machine, you just type get-ad user and there you go.
Right.
But he's got a lot better attitude, right? And so the previous guy, he was really angry when we got the contract and, like essentially took away his domain admin rights.
Mhm.
And, I kind of understand it. New guy doesn't have domain admin rights, and, we're a little hesitant to give it to him because those are our servers. We're providing you a service. It's your directory. You own all the data in it, but we're responsible for keeping the servers in. Now, if I give you full access to that and something goes wrong, what happens,
Yeah.
right?
You're
Because
restoring servers.
yeah, and if I have to do that because of actions that you took that, would not have happened had we not given you those rights, I'm not going to be happy, right? So curious, do you have any clients where there's any sort of shared responsibility? Because I generally don't do that. It's usually like we're IT, we do all your stuff, but now we have some where, and we have some where we're just supplemental, where we do some things, but
Mhm.
in general, we don't own the infrastructure in
Mhm.
those. They're bringing us in as supplemental. In this case, it's almost the opposite, where this guy is like the supplement to us, and
Mhm.
he wants more rights. He wants, he's like, well, if I need domain admin rights, I'm like, well, you don't really. What are you trying to do? Okay, we'll grant you that right. All right. Oh,
Yeah.
you want to be able to reset passwords? Absolutely. Because the way this company's culture is, they wait for someone to walk by their office and they're like, oh, hey, while you're there, I have a problem.
Yeah.
They can't like send an email or, ask for support. They have to just wait
Mhm.
for someone to wander around. It's just the way they do things.
Right.
Anyway, so in that scenario, okay, it's more efficient to let this guy reset passwords. And you know what?
Mhm.
I'll let him make users and groups. That's fine too.
Mhm.
So the latest he asked was like, can he create new group policy objects? I was like, I can probably give that one. I mean, maybe he might make a GPO that's going to affect a server, but like hopefully not, but it's
Mhm.
like, where do I draw the line exactly? And I'm just
Mhm.
curious if you've encountered a similar situation where you're doing this sort of shared responsibility with a customer bringing their own IT people, for instance.
Mhm. So we've got a couple of different scenarios. So one of ours is called a co-managed solution. And what we have to determine with them is we have to determine who's going to be responsible, and we define that. And a lot of times, so what we're either level 1 or we're level 2, but it's not a mix. We don't do, if you're out, we cover the level 1. Nope. We're either
Mm,
all level 1 or no level 1,
okay.
because uh, because of, if nobody has the responsibility of that, then users suffer for it.
Hmm.
Like, well, we asked Sublime to do this and they didn't do it. Um, well, and we don't know when he's out, or he just says, I don't have time for that, send that to Sublime.
Yep.
So we make a clear definition. We're level 1 or you're level 1, and you escalate to us or we escalate to you, so
Yep.
that there's a clear handoff.
Yep.
Now, we have less situations we, where we're the level 2 and there's a level 1, kind of like what you're describing. He's the front person there. But if we were going to do that, if I were going to do exactly what you were describing, then I would define his position, define what he's allowed to do, and then adjust it accordingly, which is exactly what you've done. You're like, well, I mean, I don't know that I would have allowed him to create OUs, but that's your call. I mean, like you said, it could cause some problems, but he would have to be doing something really dumb. And if he's doing those dumb things, he doesn't need his permission anyway. We're going to take that back.
Right. I mean,
But
yeah. Go
I
ahead.
mean, but you also can't have him on your server and messing something up to where now you've got to restore. Why deleted the
Exactly.
administrator account? Dude.
Dude. Exactly. So that's where we've got, some things, and and it's like I said, I have a little bit of hesitation. Like he's leaps and bounds ahead of the previous guy,
Mm-hmm.
but also, like, not knowing how remote server admin tools work, not knowing that PowerShell can, from a client, can talk to the server, a little concerning,
Yeah.
so it's like, I don't want to make you a domain admin and give you full access to my servers if you don't know that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And again, plus it's like, if you go and screw everything up, I'm on the hook for, cleaning up your mess, and I
Yeah.
don't want that responsibility. So
Yeah. Well, and part of the definition, I also tell them, you have to tell us when you're getting ready to do something,
oh, they never
a
do
lot.
that.
Yeah. Well, like if they, if they were creating, like, because I wouldn't like the OUs, but I would tell them, hey, give us a heads up when you're creating OUs so that we know just what you're, anything goes weird or whatever, we could do that.
Mhm.
Now I have, I'm still largely in the MSP space. I mean, well, 100%, largely. So yeah, I'm in the MSP space. Well, I've had a number of clients who have been burned by MSP providers by holding them hostage and their data hostage.
Yep.
And from time to time, I have a client that has been so badly burned that I will create a domain admin account for a user. They are
Mhm.
never to use it. I mean, so that they don't ever feel like they're being held hostage by their IT
Yep.
company, that
Right.
if
Right.
they ever had to get in it, that they could. But it's like, if you ever if you're going to log in with that domain admin account, you need to let me know, because
Yep.
you could make some really, really bad decisions.
Yep.
But
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is if you do that too, I would definitely trip an alert on
oh
that.
yeah.
So when that account goes, you receive a notification,
Mm-hmm.
because that's gotta, have some sort of auditing there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because well, it also gives you, it's kind of a what's it called? When you have a line and it rings a bell when you cross it.
Yeah, a tripwire.
A tripwire, yeah, sets up the
Bingo.
tripwire. They're interviewing
Exactly.
another managed service provider, or they're they're getting ready to
Excuse
do
me.
something dumb.
Why did you log into that account again? Oh, because you had to get your email. Got it. Got it.
Yeah, what's funny though is of all the accounts that I have created for them, for all my clients who I've created that domain admin account for them, none of them have ever logged in.
They probably forgot all about it.
Yeah, they probably forgot, but it
Yeah.
also, like I said, it was a layer of trust move with
Yep.
us so
Yep.
that they could feel comfortable.
And that makes sense. Like personally, I've never been that MSP who has held folks hostage, with one exception, when I was owed lots and lots of money contractually and someone was not paying.
Mhm.
And then they decided like, oh, well, we're done, we're not going to pay you, and we're going to, either do this in-house or we're going to hire this other person to come along. I'm
Mhm.
like, that's great. You're 60 days past due on all your invoices.
Yeah.
So you need to pay us for that.
Yeah.
And in one circumstance, when that happened, we said, okay, well, if you're not going to pay us, we're done. And we turned off all the services we were providing,
Mhm.
which included their website.
Yeah.
And their attorney called and I
Mhm.
said, yeah, we turned it off. Like, you're not authorized to do that. I'm like, actually, your client hasn't paid for the service. So we are authorized to not deliver what has not been paid for.
Yeah.
Eventually we got something out of it, but
Mhm.
it's just like, I just don't understand that, like, we don't feel like paying you anymore, so we're not going to bother. Yeah, whatever. Like, oh, that's nice of you. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had this is kind of funny. So I had this client who they were just a one-off. All they wanted us to do was set up their network. I don't typically do that, but I was like, well, okay. I don't know why he caught me at a soft spot. So we
Desperate times call for desperate actions.
Yeah. So we installed a firewall, a switch, and built out the network, so it wasn't all that difficult of a thing. And so we installed it, put it in place. I billed him for all the hardware ahead of time because it was expensive enough hardware that I wasn't going to take a chance with a new client that I don't know and get stuck with that. So he paid me for the hardware. And so we came out and we put it all in and we sent him the invoice for setting it all up, which was only $900. I mean, when I know $900 to some people is a lot of money, but having a business network set up for $900 is nothing. I mean, it didn't cost him anything. He stiffed me. He never paid the bill. And my system admin had sent him all the credentials. I mean, when we got done with because we were only there to one hit, do this one project, send it over. He was a local business owner, new to town, which I was like, kind of wanted to help him out.
Yep.
Never paid the bill, called him, emailed him, left voicemails, everything. And I mean, I have no repercussion. I wasn't going to shut down his gear because he owned it. He stiffed me for the bill. I was like, you know what? Shame on me. I'm out of here. I mean, I'm just not going to fight over $900.
Yep.
So I wrote it off, and he called 3 weeks ago and said, I need help. I need somebody to come out here and program this stuff. Right? I've got a vendor in here that needs to have the security vendor needs access to be able to set up their gear.
And when did this happen?
3 weeks ago. Well,
the original.
The original was September of 2020.
So it's been almost a year.
Yeah, almost a year. And
so he figures, you must have forgotten by now.
Yeah, must have forgotten. So he calls my office and tells Robin, my dispatch, and she's, she says, I'm sorry, but you guys are no longer a client. In fact, you never really were a client. And he says, well, I need to get somebody out here right now. And she said, well, let me see who let me contact somebody and see what we're going to do here. And I'll get back. And he's like, well, how long is this going to take? Like 5 hours? And she said, I don't know, sir. I'm going to have to, do some research and I'll get back to you. And she sent it to me. I said, no. I said, he stiffed us. He has all the information. He has all the administrator passwords, everything. So, I mean, we don't even need to talk to him because he has it. I mean, whoever his next IT company is, they can handle it. And so she calls it.
Sorry, go ahead.
So she calls him back and says, no, we're not going to help you. You're not, you're not a client. And then he says, he volunteers. He says, is it because we didn't pay you?
Huh. Let me check. That might be, that might be it.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah.
And she said, well, as a matter of fact, it is. And he said, well, I always pay my bills. You volunteered and said, is it because I didn't pay you?
Really?
And then we say, yes. Then you say, well, I always pay my bills. But you didn't. We left voicemails on your personal phone, in your business, sent letters, invoices via email. No, you don't pay your bills.
Yeah. I mean, this is where too, you could, you could say maybe, well, if you pay up what you owed us along with back interest, then we can schedule something.
Yeah.
And fully not intend to actually schedule something.
Yeah.
It's a little underhanded. So. All right. Well, yeah. So there's the lesson for today is, people suck. And there you go. Anything else?
No.
I think we're pretty good. So if people want to get in touch with us, what can they do?
What can they do? They can go
do
to our website and provide us feedback. If they want to discuss a particular topic, they can do so at www.blurringthelinespodcast.com. There will be this episode and notes. And if they want to contact us individually, they could learn more about you at paradigmcc.com, yogawithpeter.com, and friendswithbeer.com. I was going to say friendswithpeter.com, but I don't know why I was going to say that. that's not a valid URL for Peter.
That one doesn't work for me. Nikolaidis.com works for me too, though. That's on there too. And frankly, you could just start at Nikolaidis.com because that links out to all the other ones. So.
Yep. And then you can reach me at sublimecomp.com.
You really need some more vanity domains now, Adam.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. On that note, I think it's time that we hit the big red button.
Big red button.